You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Reaching all the way back to 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition. Here is your host of Fate Radio, Kat Hobson.
Hello there. Welcome to Fate Radio. I am your host, Kat Hobson. I am so pleased to be here tonight because, it has been just a fantastic weekend. I have enjoyed beautiful weather, only to get a message from my daughter in Colorado that there is snow on the ground. So I sent her my 85-degree weather app picture. So, yes, I am that person. But I am so fortunate because I've made a lot of friends in the paranormal over the years. I've done my show, Paranormal Experience, for about 4 years now. And one of my favorite people that I've ever met is my guest tonight. He is a kind person, a good person. He came through what I consider to be one of the most bizarre and extreme hauntings, and it's very well documented because of his friend, J. Jeff Unger, who kept such fantastic notes. And he finally was found out to be the person of the urban legend. Okay, so this is a great story. It was a terrible experience, but it helped shape the person that he is today. And that person is Christopher DiCesare. Hey, Chris, how are ya? Happy Sunday, said she that doesn't have to go to work on Monday morning. Well, you know what? It is just kind of an issue, and I think that I have a little bit of a problem, so if you'll just bear with me here. It is only in the settings of the machine, and it will not be something that's going to be earth-shattering, but it is a problem for those people that want to hear you and not just me. And it is fixed, and we should be peachy keno, and I'm going to swing over to our chat room and make sure everyone there can hear. And that's me typing to them. Now I need you to talk.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So, I am so excited. Again, Chris DiCesare, thank heavens, is my friend, because otherwise he would have been gone by now. Teasing. But glitches happen. I'm still getting the hang of this, and we're getting there. But, I think, Chris, that one of my favorite things is the person that you became, despite going through something like that. But I would like people to know that you came from a very tight, very close background. And, your family is close. They are serious about each other and caring for each other. And when you had this experience, what went through your mind when it started?
Well, yeah, you're right. We don't pick our families. They bring us into the world. And there are so many different variations of what families are and how they operate. And you never know what you have until you begin to compare, for better or for worse, people around you. As a young child, you listen to the rules best you can, and sometimes you like them, sometimes you don't like them. And as you get older, you realize that some of the rules are there to keep you safe. And sometimes people say, well, your parents have to be good to you in a sense, or it's nice things, because they're related to you. They'll just they'll put you into a place where you feel safe, or they'll put you into a place where you don't. But that's not true. We deal with these stereotypes. Some people have one parent, some have no parents. And the bottom line is, it's like a big dealt hand of cards when you're playing cards. You might get a pair of twos, you might get a straight, or just something you really can't use. The heroes that we have in society, Kat, are the ones that come from struggle, from hardship. and make something good of themselves, and I was very fortunate that my parents were together. They loved my sisters and myself, and they had a very simple rule. The simple rule was, if you need it, we'll give it to you. If you want it, you work for it. And that served me very well growing up. And when the haunting began at Geneseo at college, I was able to differentiate between what I wanted and needed, and that was very helpful.
Well, the resourcefulness, I don't know. I mean, when it started out, when I read the book and when I first spoke with you, the resourcefulness was having a hard time kicking around the panic, right? Because
Yeah.
it was unknown. It was something bizarre.
That's just it. We have things in our lives that we order. This is my toothbrush. This is my pillow. This is where I live. These are my friends. This is my TV show. We kind of define ourselves, and we get our routines going, because routines keep us together. They keep us on time. They keep us organized. When the haunting began at Geneseo, almost everything I had relied upon that had served me so well began to fall aside. I loved to run. That's what I was, a runner. My dad, encouraged me to be an athlete. And so most of my day was spent around running, planning, eating the proper carbohydrates, doing speed work, distance work, or school, college. But there's academics and there was the physical, the sports. And I tried to be, that's the old phrase, scholar athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But when you begin to lose faith in what you're seeing or hearing or experiencing, doubt creeps in. And we all get doubt. But when it goes into not just, say, your finances or just your health or just your relationships, but everything all at once, it's unnerving. And as a teenager, which is what I was when the haunting began, I had no idea of how to deal with what I was seeing or hearing or feeling, because in terms of the paranormal, I found out it doesn't matter how strong you are, how fast you can run, how smart you are, this is different. And it takes a whole different skill set to navigate those rough waters.
Well, thanks to the people around you, you came pretty close to developing an excellent skill set. When did you first open up to anybody besides your roommate?
It's so much of a blur for me. I would walk myself back to those days sometimes and wonder about that. And after that initial sighting of that full body apparition, when I screamed out of my room and pounded on Jeff and Ed's door and told them what I saw, I didn't want to tell anybody at first because I didn't know if what I was seeing was real. My first thought was that maybe there were drugs in my food. There was a gas leak in the room. It was mass hysteria, unexpected hypnosis, maybe SAD from being inside the winter months. I didn't trust myself and what I was understanding to share it. And what happened eventually was people began to hear and see over time from afar and began to ask questions. Well, why is Chris running through the hallway? Why is there bringing the camera in that room? Why is Paul going home on the weekends? My behavior began to change, and over time, I began to share a little bit about what was transpiring. And one of the reasons I was reticent is because the initial reactions were extreme. We talk about, and before I went to the show tonight, about politics being so extreme nowadays on both sides. When people aren't prepared for things, and when people found out that I was speaking to this ghost, it was speaking to me, I became what they called the ghost boy, and the reactions were so extreme, as I mentioned, from everything from you need to repent, you've done something wrong, it's a mortal sin, this is God punishing you, to, well, if you're like an apostle, if you're like a saint, what am I? And so such extreme reactions, I tried to pull myself inwards and not share. And people around me who behaved in a way that made me feel safe became my support group. So
Right.
folks like Jeff Unger, folks like Beth Kinsman, Linda Fox, Craig Norris, and there were a few, but they were the minority. And so once I began to trust them by their actions, when I saw them putting their concern for my health over their curiosity about the haunting, when I saw them put their concern for my happiness over getting evidence, that proved to me over the first few weeks that they're more for me than for the novelty or the excitement, which doesn't always have to be the case. And so through their actions and, my understanding of them, I began to trust. And one of the things about trust is it's a gift. You give trust. It's just not inherent. And I think going back to my parents told me, be a good person. You can trust until you're hurt. You know what I'm saying? Once you're hurt, you step away. And so I think being a trusting person by definition and having people around me who were good enabled us to create this, I'm not going to say a group, but maybe like a circle of friends who try to navigate through, like I said, the very choppy waters. We didn't know at first if this was a haunting, if it was a practical joke, if it was some kind of hysteria. You read about Jim Jones and Kool-Aid and things like that. We didn't know, and so it was a scary time.
That was a scary time. When I read the book, and by the way, the book is Surviving Evidence, a memoir of an extreme haunting, I was so blown away because we had spoken, you sent me the book, I was reading it thinking, oh my gosh, I would never have coped with this in my first year of college. And was it your freshman year? It was, wasn't it?
Actually, it was my sophomore year. The first year of college was fairly uneventful. I had heard like some ghost stories that every place has, but I dismissed them as just being, talk, entertainment, things like that.
Right.
My second year was when things got all wobbly, and some people say, well, you just got to college, maybe you're ready for that. But that's not the case at all. It was my second year at college, and it was the second semester of college. So I'd already acclimated. I'd already been to the NCAA meet for cross country. I had friends. I was a school newspaper editor for for comics. I was in my student government. I was happy. So it wasn't about not adjusting. In fact, the first thing I can recall having things change was meeting Ed and Lorraine Warren. Meeting Ed and Lorraine Warren was the very first time I can recall thinking about things of that nature. And that was about 10, 11 days prior to the haunting as far as I recall it beginning.
Right. Well, that's just so interesting because, I have known you for 3 years now. And I have always thought that was your freshman year. And I read the book. I was so out of sync. But regardless, I think probably now that you've stated all of that, you were somebody in your college. You were somebody who was participating in every aspect of college life.
That's right.
And then, boom.
Yeah, in fact, my first year of college, you don't pick your roommate; they assign you someone. And I was rooming with a gentleman named Don Brown, whose father was the mayor of Rockville Center, a very upscale, beautiful suburb of New York City. But he was a senior, and he was getting ready to go. So I met Paul, my roommate, during the haunting at the end of my first year running around the track. There's a track above the ice rink. I was running laps and laps and laps, and we started talking about things, and he was an athlete like I was. He seemed very clean. He seemed intelligent. He seemed like a nice person. So, I actually chose my roommate. So, it wasn't as though things were bad for me. I was looking forward to the school year, and we went from Genesee Hall the first year to Erie Hall, was where everything happened. So I was loving college. I was in good health. We just went through the '84 Olympics where the USA won, and we had a presidential election. The person Reagan won 49 states. It was about wearing flags and being happy and patriotism, and it was a good time to live, to be alive. The economy was booming, and the movies are great. All the John Hughes movies, Ghostbusters came out. So
yes.
I was loving life. There was no depression, no fear, no interest in Ouija boards, the paranormal, and just bang, out of the blue came this thing.
Astounding. And, I'm glad that you brought that up about, no interest in paranormal, no Ouija boards, nothing that would have triggered or been a known trigger for this to happen. So really and truly, going to the Warrens' lecture was the only thing that you had happen that was even vaguely related to the paranormal.
Yeah, that seems to have been some type of unanticipated or unknown trigger, in that I think hearing what they were saying and listening to the EVPs, looking at the slides they had, I think allowed my mind